Okay, people, greetings again. This is going to be an unusual week. It's already like Tuesday, and I've done an address and then revoked most of it, and oh boy. Okay, now look, first of all, I apologize for the heavy emphasis on the Urantia book. However, I got the sense when it was first, if you want to say, given to me, I was first aware of it right around the time of my birthday, in the middle of January. And at the time, it just felt really important. And just when I first heard of it, before I knew anything about it. And when I first started to read it, it seemed really interesting and everything. And then all you've got to do is go back and listen to my last several addresses, and you'll get a taste of the agony and the ecstasy of what has been my experience with the Urantia book. And as if you don't know, the reason I was interested in the first place was it involved, apparently, a deep trance channel, much like Douglas Cottrell, Edgar Cayce, Paul Solomon, and the rest. That's what this series is about. You know, that's what this whole thing is about, is trying to identify those and find them. And subsequently, you know, I began to learn all the backstory of the Urantia book and how there's all these appearances that's been tampered with, and I just got done reading what's the guy's name? Drawing a blank. Yes, Martin Gardner. The Great Cult Mystery, Urantia, the Great Cult Mystery. And it's probably the most famous book for lambasting the Urantia book and claiming it's all a fake. But Martin Gardner doesn't really do that. He claims that it was based upon some original papers, started with a deep trance channel, and then subsequently heavily altered. Furthermore, he would have no respect for it, even if it was 100% from a deep trance channel, and if it was unaltered completely, probably Martin Gardner never would have even written a book about it. But Gardner's interest was in Seventh-day Adventism and the human psychological aspects of creating new religions and things, and so that was kind of his impetus. But nevertheless, it's a great book, provides some background and stuff. It's kind of hard to read for people that think there's anything to Urantia at all, but such is life. But importantly, what it got me onto was this current revelation. And I remember reading about this back in early January, and I'd kind of forgotten about it as I was spending all my time reading the Urantia book itself and then reading other people's writings about it and things. But so because he mentioned some of this newer modern channeling that's been going on involving Urantia book readers and things, I decided to look into it again. And it was my first time to look into it seriously. And immediately, I searched for a couple key questions. And one of them was the Cayce thing, the reincarnation thing. Why was there such a huge difference portrayed in the Urantia book with our life? You know, it says that we start here, everything starts here, and we only have one incarnation here, blah, blah, blah. And Cayce and these other channels, they're all saying, no, we're reincarnated hundreds of times, and that's all part of the story. And other than that, the cosmologies line up quite a bit. So thankfully, somebody had the presence of mind to ask that question. I just did a search for Cayce. There's a website where they have all these newer channels. Apparently, there's a ton of them. And they're by the way, they're not deep trance channels. They're the Betty book kind of channeling, where they're still conscious, which is very interesting. And there's all kinds of stuff in there about how, if you read some of these readings, there's all kinds of stuff about why they're using that kind of channeling instead of the deep trance channeling. When is deep trance channeling important? When is this other type important? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to get started on that, just search for Cayce on the site. And the site, by the way, is the TM Archives. So it's www.tmarchives.com. And I'll put a link in the information for this this video. So you go there, and they've got a searchable database of probably all of the readings up to a certain point that they had gotten. I don't know how good of a job they're doing at keeping it current, because it seems like there's just a lot of channeling going on all at once now. But anyway, so somebody did ask that question about Edgar Cayce and reincarnation, and the answer was just fascinating. The answer was, in a nutshell, yes, there is reincarnation, and no, there's not. Yes, there is, in the sense that apparently there are energy patterns left in the fabric of space-time where we're at on the Earth, involving people's past lives. And for various reasons, we are attuned to various ones of those energy patterns. Another way you could look at it is they are a part of us, because, apparently, our identity is not yet crystallized. Since our souls are starting out and they're slowly growing and they've just started to form, we don't really have as much of an isolated identity as apparently we will in the future. Therefore, there seems to be a lot of blur, a lot of touching upon these other energies, and in a way they become a part of us. And the analogy they use in this reading was the Charles Dickens story of the Christmas Carol, where the guy gets visited by the ghost of Christmas past, and he kind of uses the reading uses that as an example, saying, in a way, we vicariously witness those past lifetimes, like when we get, I suppose he means when we have a hypnotic regression or we get a past life reading. So it's not as removed from that life as just hearing about it, but it's not as involved as if we really did just have that lifetime. It is more of some kind of middle ground where we are involved with the energy from that life in some sense, and so we can have deja vu experiences when similar events happen and things like that. But there's a real sense where we do start here, fresh. This is our beginning, this lifetime. So that does, of course, bring up lots of other questions, but it's very, very, very encouraging to hear these sources directly address the issue of Edgar Cayce, because you've got people writing about the history of the Urantia book. I can't remember the guy's name. It starts with a K. He wrote one on the source authors of the Urantia book. He's the Urantian that did it. And right in his introduction, he talks about how he was interested in Cayce till he heard that Cayce talked about reincarnation, and then he says, oh, that must be of the devil, because the Urantia book says there's no reincarnation. And thankfully, this reading this newer one from the TM archives was talking directly about that, talking directly about Cayce, saying, yes, Cayce was a legitimate channel. Yes, there will be others like him. And those types of channels are reserved for cases where a minimum of involvement of the human conscious mind is required. Now, in this current revelation involving these TM archives, where they use the conscious type trance, the lighter trance, that type of involvement is required because it relates to people better. People don't have to be a superhuman. Lots and lots more people can do it, so there can be this exhaustive preponderance, this huge flood of different people that are doing the channeling all at once. And so I think they're taking a different tack. They've said in a number of those readings I've read already where they just were not impressed by the almost zero impact the Urantia book had, even though they were fully satisfied with it. And that gets me on to the other topic, the topic of how pure of a revelation do we really have? How much has the Urantia book been tampered with? And since I'm almost at 10 minutes here, I'll start another video where I discuss what I've just read in the past few minutes about that.